Good evening and welcome to another edition of Fact Sheet. Here, it's always about the fact and nothing but the fact. And if it's not a fact, we don't talk about it. Tonight we are talking about a very important activity which is going to happen on the 7th of December. It's about the day that Ghanaians go to the polls to cast their ballot. But we can't cast our ballots without being provided security on the day when we go to cast our ballot. And that responsibility is on the shoulders of the Ghana Police Service. The Ghana Police Service, since last 2 weeks, has been assuring Ghanaians of their commitment to ensure that we have a peaceful election before, during, and after the elections. And so tonight, we will take a look at some of the statements the Ghana Police Service has issued to the effect that we would have a peaceful, fair election. They've spoken about the number of personnel they would be putting out there to ensure that we have, an election that is free and fair. They say they have over 62,000 personnel they will deploy on election day to cover the elections. Now, whilst they are deploying these individuals to cover the elections, there are questions that many have been asking. Issues to do with the political parties and their vigilantes. We know there is a vigilante law, but can we enforce that at a time when we have witnessed certain activities when we were registering people for the elections? Now, there have been other issues as well that have arisen as a result of our preparedness for the elections. Issues to do with, logistics for the Ghana Police Service. Issues to do with, criminals who may want to do things during the elections. There are also issues to do with, small arms and their proliferation. The Small Arms Commission has told us that there are about 2.3 million small arms out there that have illegally being controlled by some people who may be criminals or who may be individuals who are wielding weapons without necessarily having the right documentation. These are the issues we'll focus our attention on this evening, even as we look at our preparedness for the election 2020 and the role the Ghana Police Service and the security agencies would be playing. They told us of an elections task force that would monitor the entire elections. Some concerns have been raised about the role that certain institutions are going to play, for that matter, the CID, the BNI, and many more. Tonight, I'll have my guest help me for us to, disabuse the minds of people when it comes to the role the Ghana Police Service will be playing in the elections 2020. For now, we'll take a breather. When we come back, I will introduce my guests to you and we'll start the conversation. You're welcome back. My name is Samuel Shen, and this is Fact Sheet live on eTV, live on Facebook as well. Our handle is eTVGhana. You can follow the conversation with your thoughts, your views, and your comments gladly. Would I read these comments when they do get to us? But for now, I'd like to introduce to you my guest for this evening. Superintendent Sheila K. Abeyi Bachman is the Director of Public Affairs for the Ghana Police Service, and Nana Yao Akwada is Executive Director, Bureau of Public Safety. He will be joining us in the course of our deliberations this evening as we talk about the election 2020, assessing security arrangements before, during, and after elections. Good evening, Superintendent, and thank you for joining us this evening.
Thank you too, and good evening to our viewers and listeners out there.
And how's the work?
Work is fine. We are giving protection. That's our mandate, and I'm sure you can attest to it.
Yeah, I've seen some demonstrations and simulations that have been done, I think last 2 weeks or last 3 weeks by the security forces to give us assurance that indeed you're ready to protect us. So let's go to the issues at hand, which has to do with the Ghana Police's preparedness for the elections 2020. We have been told that there are some 62,000 plus police officers who are going to be deployed for the elections. You have also given us a hint of areas that you consider as flashpoints, over 6,000 of them. Now, let us look at the force and appreciate, how far you're willing to go in terms of the numbers that you have located for the elections. In total, your strength as Ghana Police Service, give us an idea.
Okay, so the election is being policed by the National Election Security Task Force. It is only led by the Ghana Police Service by our mandate, but it is made up of security agencies in Ghana. So the Ghana Fire Service, the Ghana Prison Service, the Ghana Immigration Service, the Customs Division of the Ghana Revenue Authority, and the Ghana Armed Forces, with BNI supporting.
Okay.
So these are the officers that are carrying out election security. By election security, we are talking about the period before, which includes now, the day of election, which is the 7th of December, and the period after elections.
Okay.
So even now, whatever security you are experiencing is part of the election security strategy.
All right, so let's talk about the now. What exactly is the Ghana Police Service doing in terms of the elections related, not only your normal police duties, but in terms of elections related activities?
Several things, including this engagement I'm having with you, to let people know what our plans are, particularly when it comes to things that people ought to know. Because for security, we cannot tell everybody everything that we are doing. And then to also bring people's attention to actions that when you undertake will amount to electoral offenses. We are assisting the Electoral Commission with some kind of administrative support when it comes to security for polling materials and polling officials, escorting or transporting polling materials to all polling stations. So all these that we are doing presently are part of ensuring general law and order.
So that would suggest to me that these members of the Elections Monitoring Task Force who are going to ensure that peace prevails before, during, and after, they would have gone through some training. Have they gone through some training?
Several. Several training.
You know, the entire 62,000 plus?
Yes, at different levels. You know, the National Election Security Task Force was re-inaugurated in October of 2019. And before then, some actions had gone on, culminating into that re-inauguration. And after then, several actions, including various forms of training for various levels of command and officers going on. And they would carry through until after elections, and there is really no activity related directly to elections.
All right, so how do I differentiate the regular activities of the Ghana Police from the activities of the task force members? How do I differentiate?
The fact is that the mandate of the police service is to maintain general law and order. And so ordinarily, with regards to election, what you are looking for is general law and order. But you know that we have a unique democracy where we have 33 polling stations where people would go to on a particular day to vote. And so we are also providing static security at these polling stations, at the collation centers, and I told you about the administrative support. We are giving security guards to candidates, even as they go about campaigning and preparing for that big day. Okay. So these are specialized events that are now being carried out because of election. Otherwise, the general security and maintenance of law and order, which we carry out every day, is what we carry out. But because of these additional things, that is why we need to come together as security agencies in the country to ensure that elections are successful and peaceful, and everybody will continue to have the peace that we're enjoying now, even after that.
You made mention of static, some static force that is supposed to be doing some work. We'll come to that, but I want to understand, you made the point that the political parties, maybe their leaders,
candidates
are
because not all of them are political, belong to political parties. There are independent candidates as well. So
the candidates are getting how many officers to protect them?
It depends. When you go to any area, there is a police command. So you contact the police command. Depending on what is involved, you are given the necessary protection. But apart from that, we are also assigning guards to those who want them.
All right. Because I remember in 2016, the presidential candidates were given, I think, 4 police personnel each to protect them. I remember, if my memory serves me right. So I'm trying to understand, what informs the decision to give them the protection then?
Several things. You know, security is our job. So we analyze the security situation and then we provide them according to our strength. And then it must also be someone who wants them, because it also puts a responsibility on the person who is being guarded in terms of where you're taking the person to the accommodation and all. So we don't force security officers on candidates, but candidates who need them, who apply for them, we give them the necessary assistance.
So the candidates would bear the cost of accommodation, feeding, and moving about with the police officer?
There are details that ought not be shared in the media space. Yes.
All right, so let's go back to the point you made about the static force. I'm thinking that it's one of your, categorizations you have done for the officers who are going to be on the ground. In that respect, the static force, what would they be doing?
We say they will be on fixed beats. They will be at the polling stations to assist the presiding officer. This is like a wedding where you have the bride and then the bridesmaids are only helping. So it is the show of the Electoral Commission.
Okay.
We are helping with general maintenance of law and order. So our presence as security personnel there is to help people to toe the line, to help people to be in the queue normally. Now, we have coronavirus, to ensure that everybody that comes to the station has his or her mask on, to assist the electoral officer or the returning officer, the presiding officer, with any lawful activities that they want to carry out. We are there to protect and police the ballots, so that if anybody decides to also take any polling material or deface any polling material, the person can be promptly arrested by patrol teams and standby forces.
All right, so back to the issue of the numbers, as in the task force that will be monitoring the elections, about 62,794, if my figure is correct. Now, these are officers who will be manning about 38,622 polling stations per the EC's last record of polling stations they're going to be working with this year. If you do the math and do some division, it would mean that each polling station might have, let's say, some 1 or 2 police, officers who will be manning a station. Now, I'm thinking about areas where the numbers may be high. In that respect, how are you going to work it out?
So each polling station will have at least 1 security officer. But you see, we have said that we are approaching this election, particularly on the election day, in 4 tiers. So this will be the first year where we have fixed duty officers, but then we will have officers on patrol. And this will be made up of officers from specialized units of the Ghana Police Service and the Ghana Armed Forces, who will be patrolling the area throughout the period. And then we will have officers who would rapidly respond to any situations. And then we will have officers who will be on standby, just in case they need to come in to support the rapid response team, then they come in. So that explains why we have over 60,000 security personnel.
So the static force officers will not be wielding arms?
Yes, at the polling station we will not have arms, but we will have sufficient tools to quell any disturbance.
Like?
You don't need to know all of them, but it's about crowd management. We expect that all voters will comply with the rules. You go, you stay in the queue, it's your turn, you show your card, you are shown the process to go through, you vote, you go home peacefully. But we know that there are people who may want to foment trouble. That's why we have the patrol officers. They'll be within reach. That's why we have the rapid response teams. They'll be all over the country, in all electoral areas. And then we have standby forces. So yes, the officer who is at the polling station may not wield arms, because we know that it's not every person who is comfortable seeing arms at the polling station. But those who may have to respond to situations will come with the necessary tools to respond to the situation.
All right. Now, using the Ayawaso West Wagon as an example, we saw, officers in different uniforms, and per the assurance that the IGP gave us, he told us that officers on duty would be identifiable with some armlets or so. Is that to mean that we are going to see the regular police uniform, the black or the white and black, that is going to be at every station, or we may have different uniforms being stationed at different places? You
have the regular uniforms of the security agencies. So like I said, if it is the police service, our regular uniforms. If it is the fire service, our regular uniforms. If it is the immigration service, our regular uniforms. If it is about the patrol officers or the response team, including the Ghana Armed Forces, you know, our regular uniforms. But in addition to these uniforms, we will also have duty armlets on the election day.
Okay. Now, these armlets are to identify them as officers, but would they have their name tags as well?
Yes, like I am wearing my name tag.
Okay, all right. Now, before we continue with the conversation, we'll move to the issue about the flashpoints in a bit. Let me go to the phone lines and speak to Nanaya Akwada, who is the Executive Director for the Bureau of Public Safety, and then pick a few comments from him in respect of the issue about the number of officers who are going to be deployed on the 7th of December, prior to, during, and then after. Nana, good evening.
Yeah, good evening, and good evening to your viewers.
Hello, good evening, Nana.
Yeah, good evening, and good evening to your viewers.
Hello, Nana, good evening.
Yeah, good evening, and good evening to your viewers.
I trust you're doing well tonight.
I beg your pardon?
I trust you're doing well tonight.
Yes, I'm doing well. I just have a quick apology to put through to your viewers that I should have been in studio. Please, they should forgive me. Was a little mixed up with my programming.
All right.
So they should forgive me, and that you did all that you could to be in studio.
That's fine. So how do you gauge the mood of the country in terms of the work that the Ghana police is supposed to be doing when it comes to the pre-election period?
Okay, that's a difficult one, but I will attempt to respond to that. Look, as it stands now from the perspective of the police, let me say good evening to Sheila. From the perspective of the police and from what we have all heard the IGP say, it looks like we are good to go. But from other angle, which is even a more serious one, there is a heavy cloud of uncertainty hanging either around public and security watchers or the majority of citizens who keep an eye to safety and security developments in the country. There is no secrecy about the fact that every election, the whole world over comes with some amount of uncertainty and discomfort. But what we are faced here is a situation where the uncertainties facing us as a nation are things that we know, aspects that are known quantities that the state security services place a lid on, which in our opinion they have not done, coupled with other developments that may come a week or two to the elections and what will happen on election day that no one with even the most sophisticated form of early warning system can anticipate it. Those ones, coupled with what we know already, I think that the state right now can best be described as that of uncertainty.
All right, so you made the point about, a cloud that is hanging, but you have not specifically told us what the indicators are to inform, your assertion that there's a cloud hanging over us and the uncertainty.
Okay, let me run it through quickly. I'm sure your viewers may know about Act 999, which is the Vigilantism and Other Related Offences Act. Following Ayawaso West 4-1 incidents, during the election, the by-election happened, and the activities of vigilante groups, a whole act was passed because when the state itself conducted assessments of the vulnerabilities that the state itself has as far as the activities of vigilante groups were concerned, we realized that it was significant and that it could undermine the democracy, the peace and stability that we have enjoyed in the last 27 years or so. So a law was passed. Now, in that law, there is a provision, I think subsections 2 and 3 of the Act, a particular article, which says that 1 month after the passing of the law, the leaders of all these vigilante groups associated with political parties shall write to the minister officially, formally, indicating to the minister that XY group is herewith disbanded. Our members, current members are Sefa. Past members are Nanaya. You understand? That provision, as far back as January, the Bureau wrote to the Minister of Justice and the Minister of Interior, demanding to know whether that provision has been complied with. Till date, we have not heard from the Minister of Interior. We have not heard from the Minister of Justice. Sefa, do you know? I hope I'm speaking with Sefa.
You're speaking to Sam.
Okay, Sam. Do you know if that provision alone for over 36 or 43 vigilante groups that were identified at the time of the passing of the Act, if that law, that provision has been complied with, the state was going to have a credible database of potential trouble causes across every constituency and every and crime of the country, at least for the new vigilante groups, aka Bamba Boys, Bulldogs, all those people. Yeah.
But regardless, Nana.
Nothing has been done.
Regardless.
So as I speak to you, hang on, you were asking of the crowd. As I speak to you, the potential trouble causes are out there, unbeknown to the state security services. They are out there. There is no bond whatsoever. There is very little or no intelligence on them and their activities. Right now, they are underwater. They could resurface a week or a couple of days to election. By then, it's easier for them to mobilize and cause distraction than for the state security services to mobilize and contain them across the country.
All right, so Nana, the point you raise, regardless, you think that the police and the security agencies don't have the capacity to clamp down on these vigilantes if they should show up? And would there not have been evidence at the time when we were registering people for the new voters register and it was obvious the tensions were high and people were willing to do just about anything to get their members on the voter roll?
Well, two things. I think to be irresponsible on our part to say that the police are not contain these groups when they come. I won't say that. I have not said that, and I'm not going to say that. But how many police, how many security officers did the IG say that they were going to dispatch? 60,000. Right? Good. Across how many constituencies?
275.
275. Good. How many hotspots did the police themselves identify across the country? I mean, these are the basic public safety analysis that everybody can make and arrive at a determination as to whether our security services may be running deficits or not. It is important that the low-hanging fruits in public safety the low-hanging fruit, we take care of them very quickly. If the low-hanging fruit have not been taken care of, what happens is that you may be overwhelmed when other issues come up. So it's important that we take care of the known quantity, the known hazard, and then prepare and put in measures for the unknown. 60-something thousand security officers can be overwhelmed under an hour. 1 hour. 1 hour is even too long. How many visitors are we expecting to go out there? Assuming that out of the over several thousands of hotspots that they identify, assuming that 10% lit up on election day, do you know the implications for the entire election? Disastrous.
So, in your view,
that we make steps and contain the new quantities now, and then put in measures for the unknown.
All right, let me ask my final question. So, in your view, you think that the over 62,000 officers that the task force is going to deploy for the election is inadequate?
Again, I did not quite hear you.
I'm saying, what you're suggesting is that the over 62,000 officers who are going to be deployed on election day is inadequate.
Well, and before I make the headline, let me indicate to you that policing has always remained a shared responsibility. There are over 30-something million Ghanaians, being taken care of by a little under 40,000 police officers. As long as the citizens will cooperate, as long as citizens are going to support these 60,000 officers, I think that we should be good to go. But we cannot bang our hopes on citizens' cooperation and support. We must set up a brief for election day through our strategies, our operational strategies, and so on and so forth. If we do not do that, we may run into very serious problems.
Now, before I end the conversation with you, Nana, there's a question I want to seek your view on, which has to do with social media and the content of information that is usually spewed on social media. Do you think it has the potential of becoming a security threat during the elections?
Absolutely, absolutely. In the US of A, today, they've summoned the CEOs of Twitter and Facebook to Congress. So let nobody underrate the power or the impact that social media commentary and information and misinformation have dealt to our people. I would be surprised if the state is not making plans or efforts to engage with these widely used social media platforms. If there are any such plans to engage them, or they've already started engaging them, it will be absolutely important that the state, the whole country, is notified of what is permissible, what is not permissible, and how the state security services itself, during, before, during, and after election, aspects of misinformation on social media will be taken up by the state security services for prosecution. And I think this must be made clear to the citizens, because if we wait too long before we start putting in or throwing in directives and, if you like, regulations and rules, it also has its own negative effect. So we've just put some few days to elections. It's important to have a bipartisan, kind of memorandum, engage the people we need to engage, and be able to, manage the gateways of these social media platforms.
All right. Now, my final question has to do with recent activities by the Small Arms Commission. Recently, we saw them, burning ammunitions that they had confiscated, and all to ensure that the over 2.3 million, small arms, we are being told, are in the hands of people, but not accounted for legally, are done away with. In that respect, is there a possibility that these arms that we don't know anything about may surface during the elections? And I'm taking a look at Ododio constituency, for instance, when some gunshots were heard at a time when there was a walk between the NPP and the NDC.
Well, just to add to that, it's important that your viewers know that the 2.2 million that the Small Arms Commission mentioned is actually a moderate estimation, very, very conservative estimation. Between 2004 to 2014, their own survey or research that they indicated that the number of guns within the system increased by over 850%. So between or beyond 2014 to 2020, if you want to do a proper extrapolation, then you know that we have, as at 2014, they talked about 1.1, then you know that we are far in excess of the 100% 2.2 million figure we are talking about. So let that be in the minds of your viewers. That illicit arms are a threat to public safety and our peace. I think it's not in question. What you are raising concerns about is as to whether these weapons may surface either on election day or close to election or after election. My answer to you is that it's very, very possible. And I think that the police service, the security service should be working with a possible mindset rather than not anticipating that the numerous guns in the system are not going to pop up. These may pop out. They may pop out not necessarily at polling stations, but they may pop up anywhere because they are in the system. The guns are here. The guns are here. So we need the security services to engage the public absolutely because they cannot do the work alone. We need the IGP and his team, commanders all across the country, to begin, if they have not begun, community engagement. As I saw on the platform, they are going to do a peace concert. We must move away from, fanciful gatherings and get down on the ground and do the work. Let's unite the community. Let's get the opinion leaders, party leaders across the various communities to begin to and to understand that we are going for elections and we are not going for war. Once we are able to build or collapse those walls or build those bridges, the possibility for tensions to escalate in the point of dropping arms will be neutralized. So that the police can concentrate resources and efforts at true problem causes or true nation records, and not people who may disagree because I did not see my name in the register and I'm insisting I want to vote, and then it becomes something, then people start drawing guns. I think that the community engagement must go down. The police must lead, civil society organizations must lead, religious bodies must lead, and the chiefs must also lead this engagement at the community level.
Well, thank you this evening for making time to speak to us.
Thank you for having me.
Nana Akwada is Executive Director, Bureau of Public Safety, sharing his thoughts with us on the conversation we are having, which has to do with the Elections Task Force that would supervise the period now until the D-Day and then post the election day. I'll come back to you, Superintendent, for comments on some of the things that Nana has said, and then we'll take the views of some listeners who have joined us on the show this evening. So we'll take a short breather. When we come back, we'll delve deeper into the issues. Welcome back. This is Fact Sheet live on eTVGhana, and we've been having a conversation with Superintendent Sheila Bachman. She is the Director of Public Affairs for the Ghana Police Service, and we're talking about, you know, their preparedness for the elections, and some issues popped up whilst I was speaking to Nana. The issue about vigilantism, the issue about social media. I don't know what you have done in terms of your preparedness to ensure that social media does not become a problem for us going into the elections. Do you see it as a threat, social media?
Sami, I'll say good evening to Nana. You know, he sent the greetings, but I couldn't respond.
Yeah.
For us as security service, everything that has the potential of marring the security of the country is a concern to us. And that is why, and you know, it is not always about the use of force. Like Nana said, and like you and I agree, it's also about the people's willingness to fight crime. We have gone through elections how many times in this country under the Fourth Republic? 7 times. This is the 8th time. We trust the good people of Ghana to do good. And we are there also to face the bad ones squarely.
But is trust enough, considering what we see on social media today?
So if you had let me land on the statements, so I said we trust the good people of Ghana to do good. And for those bad guys, we are ready and armed for them. They are the reason why we will have the rapid response teams and arms. Otherwise, election is not about arms. For security services to come out with arms. On social media, we are urging all, and you know, we have been engaging bloggers, journalists, and media practitioners, anybody who has the opportunity of being in the media space, to be wary of what we publish, what we share. This election, we are assuring you that together with CSOs and other organizations who are not security agencies, we will be monitoring whatever is going on. They have put out several channels through which you can fact check. The National Media Commission has put out channels in the media space. The Media Foundation for West Africa has put out channels. Pens Plus, but a lot of them. So fact check your information before you share. Don't plunge Ghana into chaos because of your irresponsible publications. Let's all try to verify the information we share. Let's all try to verify the information we read before we activate them. And it will be nice for us all. But that aside, because we know that the preventive thing is not enough, we also monitor the media space. The cybercrime unit is there to handle such issues as and when they come up. So that where prevention fails and people do it, they will be arrested to face the law.
So how about those who may have, you know, WhatsApp, Facebook, but not necessarily because they understand the content they are sharing, but it's because they have received information and they are sharing, and they don't have the capacity to fact check the things you're talking about?
So if it is up, like with WhatsApp, I do know that a cybercrime unit has the capacity of stopping certain things.
Oh,
but
really?
the point is that let us all be responsible. Let us all be responsible users of the media space, such that you just don't forward information just because you received the information or just because you thought of it. We will put out information promptly. We are also on social media. You know, Ghana Police Service has a verified page on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, and on YouTube. So we are there on social media to help give the necessary information to social media users, as well as liaising with mainstream media to give the information promptly so that nobody creates information that is fake. But let us be aware that publication of fake news is a crime. And so we shouldn't spread fake news. Otherwise, we'll find ourselves being in conflict with the law.
So is that to suggest that the the Ghana police would be monitoring content that will be going
we are monitoring
in and out of people's phones?
Not in and out of people's phones. Privacy rules are there. So it's not in and out of people's phones. But what is a publication? It is when you share from yourself. If you don't share, it doesn't become a publication. But by sharing, that is when you are publishing. Good citizens like you are expected to give information to the police and security agencies. And if good people like you do give information to security agencies, we get to know the information and we act on them.
There have been several, information that is gotten on social media, a lot of them which have turned out to be false. In that respect, if indeed the Ghana police is going to act during the election period, we would have seen some prosecutions happening. Has there been prosecutions of individuals who have, shared content that is incorrect?
Several people have made false statements on the social media space. They have been picked up, they have been arrested, they have been prosecuted. So if I have to give individual cases, that I cannot do now. But several people have been picked up for publishing false information in our media space to face the law.
This vigilante thing, do you think it's gone? Do you think the law has made them vanish? Do you think the two major political parties, the NDC and NPP, deciding to sign a pact has killed the issue of vigilantism?
For us, it is not about what we think. It is about preparing for any situation that may arise. That is why we are educating citizens on all the actions that can fall under any of the laws as being offensive or as offenses. So that if you find yourself being in conflict or acting in that manner and you are arrested, you would know, you will understand. Now we want you to know. You see, any act of intimidation or even threat of violence under the Act 999 amounts to vigilantism. If it is for your own interest or if it is in the support of another's interest.
Okay.
And you know the punishment, the consequence of being convicted for vigilantism, 10 years minimum. So it is in our own interest not to do any acts that fall under that law or any other law as being an offense. So it is not about what we think, but it's about what we are prepared for. Luckily, we have been also engaging the political parties. The same way we have been engaging traditional leaders, we have been engaging communities, we have been engaging different identifiable groups. The essence of the engagement is for us to understand each other, for people to know that they have roles to play. They have the responsibility of doing the right thing, so they do not find themselves at the right side of the law.
Recently, you made us know there are over 6,000 hotspots that you are looking out for. When I was speaking to Nana, I think he was going the tangent I was going earlier before he joined us about the number of polling stations and then the capacity of the officers to man these stations. As much as you've told us that there's a static force, the mobile force, the contingency force, who are all going to be playing their role. But if there are over 6,000 hotspots, and then let's say, hypothetically, all these hotspots get activated, wouldn't the police be overwhelmed?
You know, intelligence is on the ground as well. There are ununiformed persons and there are good citizens like you who give information. You want to believe that the good citizen will stay and watch on while the bad person, few of them do the wrong things and citizens won't act. They would give them or they will hand them over to security agencies to take them through the lawful processes. Some of the pronouncements we make or some of the things we propagate also make things look like too bad, than good. These hotspots are not to scare anyone. These hotspots have been identified from the ground to the top. This is an aggregation of places or areas that districts election security task forces have passed on to regional election security task forces, and they've come to the national election security task forces. These are areas that we are saying that small issue can trigger some conflicts. They may not necessarily be election related. And so we are paying more attention to the place. Although, as the Inspector General of Police said, we are approaching all polling stations as though they are hotspots.
Let me touch two issues. Ododio constituency. Recently, there was an issue between the NDC and the NPP. There was a police officer with them at the time the incident happened. When one of them, whether the NDC or the NPP, was going for a walk or something, and then violence broke out. We saw people who were wielding guns and shooting into the air. Has there been any arrest and has there been any prosecution so far?
There have been arrests with Ododio. But if you want specifics, I would refer you to my Accra Regional PRO. You know that because we are talking about election generally, I did not bring specifics of cases or specific details of cases related to election. But so far as I do know, there have been peace in that area. There have been the necessary arrests. There have been the necessary legal processes that must go on, including hearing on air about all the various parties saying that they have promised and they have pledged peace.
All right, there's a question that, you know, I wanted to ask. So on D-Day, I know motorbikes are not supposed to go near, you know, polling stations 100 meters or so. There was a question that somebody asked the IGP about, you know, we taking our phones to the polling centers. Are we allowed to use our phones at the polling centers to either video or to take pictures? Are we allowed to?
There is no law that bans anybody from using their mobile phones. But under the Representation of People's Act, nobody can compel anybody to disclose who he or she voted for. And so we do not expect that people will feel compelled to go into the polling booths to take pictures of who they are voting for. When you do that, then you are you are going against the law. But otherwise, there is no law that prevents anybody from using their mobile phones or digital devices on election day.
All right, we'll go for a short breather. When we come back, I will look at the issue of logistics. So we'll take a short breather. When we come back, logistics, their vehicles, those in the, you know, areas with water, their canoes and co, to cross to deliver ballot boxes and to monitor. We'll be back. All right, so you're welcome back. I believe I'll ask my final question, which has to do with logistics and the police's preparedness for the elections. I remember, I think it was the Eastern region, where an officer there was asking for helicopters, you know, to aid them in the transport of ballot boxes to some of the, you know, polling centers that are cut off as a result of, you know, water bodies, and then life jackets and co for them in order to do their work. How far would that request?
Security agencies that are policing this election, you have seen us. It's not just the Ghana Police Service. All the security agencies are coming together. With regards to areas where we need to go through the water bodies, we have the Navy and we have the Marine Police to support that. If it's about air, we have the Armed Forces, the Air Force to support that. We have already mapped out routes to polling stations. Together with the Electoral Commission, we have visited the polling stations, and that we will deliver the materials, hopefully on time.
Would people be arrested for non-compliance with the COVID-19 protocols on the D-Day?
It depends on what they do. We expect that everybody who will come to the polling station will be in his or her mask, covering the nose through the mouth to the chin. But if you fail to do that, and the law catches up with you, you leave us with no choice than to arrest you.
Superintendent Sheila Bachman, I'm grateful you joined us this evening on Fact Sheet.
Thank you, Sami. But let me say that this election, we have only one choice, the choice of peace. And we expect and appealing to all Ghanaians to go that way of choosing peace. For us, those who have the opportunity of using the media space, please, fake news and false publication, if you do that, you are entering into the area of being charged, committing an offense that goes against the laws of Ghana. And so we expect that before you share anything before elections, now and after the elections, you fact check before you share, before the law catches up with you. We expect that we will all vote for peace, that we will have to live in peace even after the election. The candidates that we are going to vote for, without peace, they cannot govern this country. So why would we want to do anything other than promoting peace? We are counting on Ghanaians. We security services are ready, but we do know that you would also help us to achieve the peace that everybody wants.
Director of Public Affairs for the Ghana Police Service, Superintendent Sheila Bachman, with the final word for the citizens of this country. My name is Samuel Ishen. God willing, Tuesday evening we'll be here. But tomorrow morning, we'll be live on the Happy Morning Show on eTV and Happy 98.9 FM. Let's make it 8.